So welcome everybody, welcome to the Term 4 briefing. Following feedback, we are doing this briefing as a one with education leaders present, so that at the end of the presentation we can ask, you can ask us questions. Obviously through the presentation, please by all means put questions into the chat as well. Some of my colleagues on the call will try and answer them as we go through. We have got a lot of slides to go through. We will stop the recording at the end of the slides and that recording will be sent out. So similarly to previous briefings, the content and the presentations can be shared more widely across people who aren't able to attend and with your staff. Any questions that we don't get to today, we will stop at 4 o'clock. Any that we don't get to, we will do a FAQ and send that out with the presentation slides and the recording as well, so we can come back. As always, we will do our best to attend your network events, your CEO, MSHA, MELA and zones if you request us to those, with myself or some of our colleagues to answer or talk specifically around any more detail. As you may be aware, I have returned to the AD for Education and Send role. Thank you very much to Paul for covering me for the last 4 months. I will continue to do the leadership of the children's services reforms for 1 day a week, but we have recruited somebody called Penny Pemberton, who will make herself known to a number of you as we go through these work streams. As a project manager, so she will be picking up quite a lot of the weekly running of the work, and Paul will still be acting up and covering me for the equivalent of about 1 day a week. So for some meetings he will continue to carry that responsibility. So as I say, we've got quite a packed agenda today. We're going to start with Victoria Best around the fostering service. I'm going to give an update on the white paper and on the reform of services for children. Paul will then talk about the education estates policy, free school meal changes. Jo will give a SEND operational update and Emma on ordinarily available provision. And then last but not least, Sarah will give us an update on virtual school activity. So without further ado, Victoria, I'll hand over to you.
Lovely. Thank you everyone for having me today to talk a little bit about fostering. So what is fostering? So just a brief overview. So foster carers look after local children who need safe and loving homes while they're unable for many different reasons to live with their own families. And so I work for Foster for Medway. We are Medway Council's fostering service, and we're involved in the recruitment, assessment and training of the people who will go on to become our foster carers looking after these children who have been in care. So there are many reasons why a child might become looked after. Absent parenting, abuse or neglect, which actually forms the highest number of cases, disability, family dysfunction, and the length of time that a child might be in care will vary depending on those circumstances. So we currently have roughly 77 children in care per 10,000 children in Medway, and that number has been rising year on year. And unfortunately, many children in care we actually have to place with independent fostering agencies because we don't have enough of our in-house carers here in Medway. We don't tend to like doing that as well because these independent fostering agencies, they could be a little bit further away. We don't want to uproot any child who has lived here in Medway, has got their friends here in Medway. Just a couple of other statistics here. So every 20 minutes, another child comes into care needing a foster family in the UK. And actually 45% of looked after children meet the criteria for having a possible mental health disorder. Only in the last couple of weeks, actually, the government has announced that they want to recruit another 10,000 foster carers. So this really is government led, that we need more foster carers for children in care. So just a bit of an overview about foster carers do. So we see fostering as being a role split into three facets. That is providing a safe home environment for the child, meeting the needs of the child in their care, and foster carers are part of a professional network working to meet the needs of a child. So they work with us in Medway Council, with our social workers, they work with health professionals, and we all work with the best interests of the child. So this just is a bit of an example of kind of what a daily routine of a foster carer might look like. So yeah, just generally making the child in their care feel safe, happy and loved, cooking nutritious meals for them, getting them to school and any medical appointments they might have, getting them to their clubs, getting them to meetings with professionals. So that will be sort of facilitating those meetings with social workers that the child might be having. Some children will need to have contact with their birth parents and be taken to those sessions as well. They'll be helping children with their homework, encouraging them to build their skills and confidence. There is a level of admin work required because we have a lot of paperwork that needs to be completed. We've got very high standards set on us for our foster carers. We need to make sure that they are working to those standards, and that will include completing all of the mandatory training and other tasks as required. So key points to note, so foster carers work mainly from the comfort of their own home, although of course, as mentioned, some travel around Medway will be required, and fostering is not a voluntary role. So I think that is a bit of a conception that kind of you foster voluntarily, it's sort of a good thing to do, but we do actually pay our foster carers for their time. Fees received weekly would depend on the needs of the child in the carer's care and also their age. So for a child up to about 4, our current wages, which would be going up in April, is about £420. But for a young person aged 16 plus requiring specialised care, weekly fees currently would be £683. We do have a breakdown of those fees that we offer on our website there. So some other key points to note. So foster carers are self-employed. The assessment period can take between 6 months and a year. So we have quite an extensive assessment period that we go through. That is because of the level of checks that we need to do to make sure that the people who are going to be looking after the children that we have in care are the best people for the job. We carry out medical checks, a full DBS check. We've got regular meetings with the prospective foster carers just to really get to know them, and we support them throughout their journey. We've also got a 3-day training course, which is our Skills to Foster training, to really help those people feel fully prepared to take on the role and have that real understanding of what they'll be doing. And actually, a lot of what we do during the assessment process then feeds into a process that is known as the matching process. So we do not just drop a child on anyone's door. There's actually a thorough process called the matching process, where when we get the call to say that we've got a child that needs someone to look after them, we then have a look at who we've got available, who is the best person that's going to really help that child thrive. And that is when we'll go back to things that we may have found out during the assessment process, like the heritage of the person, their lifestyle, their, just who they are as people, because we really want that to be a really good match, a placement that's going to be long term and in the best interest for the child. So I am speaking from Medway Council, but it's good to know, so Kent County Council do have their own fostering service as well. Oh, sorry, would we be able just to go back one slide? Sorry about that. So we've got lots of different types of fostering. So long-term fostering would be when a child comes into care needing a placement for a longer period of time. But we've also got short-term fostering. So this could just be, for example, a bit of an emergency situation. Say parent has been hospitalised or parent is in prison. We're working with the family and we would like to reunify. It's called that child with their family, but just in this short term, we need someone to look after the child. So that would be short-term fostering. We also offer short break fostering as well. We need foster carers for short break fostering, and that could just be being able to offer a regular weekend, and that helps our foster carers sort of recharge and be able to do other things in that time. And it's that regular place that the child can go to. They don't feel like they're going to, another placement. They feel like they're going to see their friend in this other family. Parent and child fostering is a type of fostering whereby the foster carer would be looking after a parent and their child. So it tends to be mums and babies, but not always. Permanency is a type of fostering when long-term fostering has become permanent. So that's a real success story when that happens. And that is when basically the foster carer's home is now that child's home. And that is where they feel safe. And yeah, we're always really happy when we have an arrangement that becomes permanent. We've got supported homes and private fostering as well, but I'll talk about those right at the very end of the presentation. So who are we looking for in Foster for Medway? Well, we need people with patience, kindness and compassion, who like children and who'll be dedicated to providing a high level of care to the child in their care. We always ask that our foster carers be over the age of 21. However, there's no upper age limit. We actually recently approved someone who was 75, so absolutely no upper age limit. The average age of foster carers is actually 55. We ask our foster carers to be in general good health. What does that mean? I don't think any of us can say, we're in absolutely excellent health, but just general good health, being able to undertake those activities that will be required of them to be able to look after a child. Now, traditionally, we would have always asked our prospective foster carers to have at least one spare room in their house, because that would be the room that the child is sleeping in, their safe space in the house. However, we can now accept people without a spare room in their home if they would like to foster babies and toddlers, and we do need foster carers for babies and toddlers as well. Again, traditionally, driver's license, we would have been asking our prospective foster carers to have driver's licenses and access to a vehicle. But now we're very open to having conversations with people who might be interested in fostering who don't have driver's license, if they can give us a little bit of information about how they would be able to take the child to school, to their appointments. And that could be, I've got my parents would be supporting me. That could be, I've got a partner supporting me that can drive. That would be, I live on a road with great transport links. We would be taking all of that into account. So some common myths busted as well. So there are a lot of myths around fostering. So really, in all of these presentations, I just try and debust some of those myths. So firstly, we don't need our foster carers to own their own property. They can be renting. They don't need to be in a relationship or cohabiting. If they have a criminal record, it wouldn't automatically exclude them from becoming foster carers. So we carry out police checks. We'd be looking at any conviction that's on there in detail, what that was, when it was. We're carrying out our risk assessments. So some, of course, would automatically exclude you, but not all. Single male carers and members of the LGBTQ community can foster. Our foster carers don't need to already be parents or have parenting experience. We don't like the term well off, but would need to be well off as we'd be providing our foster carers with their fostering allowance, which covers the extra household and general costs of having that person living with them, and rewards for the foster carer as well as a thank you. If you have a disability as well, we'll discuss that with you as well. Again, we just want someone who's going to be able to look after the child in their care and carry out the activities required. We offer extensive preparation and training. So as mentioned, we've got our skills to foster training. We've got the opportunity to meet other foster carers during the assessment process and get answers to any questions that prospective foster carers might have. These are just some of the topics that we'll go through with you in your training. So providing warm empathy and encouragement, providing structure and boundaries, working effectively with professionals, understanding identity and diversity. And training doesn't stop when a person becomes a foster carer. We actually offer lots of training courses in Medway Council, and we have a lot of partners as well. We're actually part of a large hub called the Local Authority Fostering South East, and as part of that we get lots of training coming through from them as well. And we really want to tailor our training to the foster carers. So if we know that a particular piece of training would really benefit a foster carer, their social worker would be saying, we'd love if you could do this. We think it would really benefit your professional development. So yeah, really big on helping people with that professional development. So why foster with Medway? So we put care first. We're responsible for ensuring the safety and well-being of all of our Medway children. We all work together to make decisions in the best interest of our children. We've got a supportive fostering community. We host regular support groups, social events and more. In December, we had our lovely end-of-year carers event. We really want our foster carers to feel like they're being really celebrated, because we do so value what they do. Foster carers have the opportunity to join not one, not two, but 3 mockingbird constellations that we've been very happy, a real success story here in Medway, that we've got these 3 constellations. And basically it is a bit of a support group, but it's run by the foster carers themselves, and they work together the way that an extended family would. So children can freely go for sleepovers with the other children. They can sort of provide care for each other, the foster carers, and they just enjoy days out. So just a really nice supportive community to have that, and sort of a normal family environment as you would have with an extended family. We offer access to support 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. As mentioned, lots of professional development opportunities, the generous fees and allowances that we offer, as well as 50% discount on council tax. And we also offer a passport to leisure to any child in care. So that allows the child to access Medway spaces free of charge. We've got a generous refer a friend scheme as well. So if in the course of this presentation you've thought I know someone who'd make a great foster carer, all they need to do is just complete an inquiry form on our website and click register their interest. We've also got our number there as well. I do have a slide at the end where I've got our full details if anyone would like to take those down. So how can head teachers in Medway support us? So please let us know if you would be happy to display our fostering posters and brochures in receptions, if appropriate, and we'll get these to you. We can top them up as required. Please do share information about fostering in your newsletters and communications. I did email sort of before February half term with a little bit of copy and some graphics. We do really appreciate all support in just letting people know what a rewarding, lovely role it is to be a foster carer, and how much we do need foster carers in Medway. Let us know if there are any school events that might be appropriate for us to attend to talk about fostering. We can come along to little fairs and things like that. I can deliver virtual or in-person presentations to staff or parents, and we always come with goodies to give away, and I can create activities tailored to a theme of an event. I've got some lovely activities that I've been running linked to the theme of fostering, like making Christmas houses. For Easter I've got growing an Easter garden with us, all about sort of growing families, growing hope. So yeah, I'm more than happy to work with you on anything like that. Yeah, and just generally sort of in your own circles and at work, just pointing people in our direction if appropriate. Maybe you're part in your spare time, you're part of a hobby or faith group, and you'd be happy to distribute brochures, or even just sort of spreading the word to friend thinking about career change, or colleague who's retiring but wants to do something really positive for the community, and just share the information that you've learned today. We really need people to go and be ambassadors for us. We appreciate that not everyone is going to be able to become a foster carer, but we really would appreciate any support in helping us help Medway children. So I've just got a couple of slides to finish. So a quick word on supported homes. This is another scheme that we offer, which is different to fostering, and it's a great option for anyone who might be working full time or has other commitments. And basically it's supporting someone leaving care. So a young person, generally between 16 to 21 or up to 25 if they have special needs or in education. And what a supported homes host does is they welcome that person into their home. You would need to have a spare room in your home that would be that young person's room, and generally they will be quite self-sufficient. They'll be responsible for their own diaries, responsible for managing their own finances. All they might need is just a little bit of advice. It can be quite a nice mentorship role, because this will be the first time that person is living on their own. So yeah, they might come with you with some questions, and you'll be able to help them as they get started in their adult lives and are learning to live independently. Currently we offer £330 a week to cover that young person's rent, and as a thank you from us. And finally, quick word on private fostering, so very relevant to head teachers. Private fostering, we have a duty to let people know about this, any professionals working with children. Private fostering is different to fostering with ourselves or with an independent fostering agency. It actually refers to sort of a more informal arrangement whereby a child is being looked after by someone who is not a close relative for a period of 28 days or more. So an example would be a mum has said to her friend, would you mind mind just watching my child for the next couple of months? You know, I need to go abroad, say. And mum said, yes, of course. But actually that is a private fostering arrangement. And as a council, we need to be aware of those. And that is all to keep children safe. So we actually offer some bite-sized training. We've got some sessions coming up in March and April, all at different times. So you can choose the time that's most convenient for you to join. And we really urge you guys to book onto those, to encourage your staff to book onto those, because it's very important for anyone having contact with children to know about what that is, how to identify it, and how to report it. So for any more information about private fostering and those bite-sized training sessions, please do email our private.fostering email address. And I think, yeah, that's the end of the presentation. So I've put here some details. So that's our foster care recruitment email, the Facebook and the Instagram, our number that goes directly through to us here in Medway, our website, and that's my email address as well. And I'm more than happy, I know we're a little bit tight on time, to take questions directly to myself. That's victoria.best@medway.gov.uk. But yeah, thank you so much for having me today in your meeting. I hope that was helpful and gave you some insights into fostering and what we do here, particularly in Medway, in the Medway Fostering Service. So hopefully we can work together in the future, and more than happy to come along and deliver any similar presentations to your schools. Yeah, any way that we can work together. Yeah.
Thank you, Victoria. Very, very useful and very interesting presentation. And schools can contact you to get the resources to share out. Okay, so I'm going to move on to give you an overview of the white paper, Every Child Achieving and Thriving, which was published at the beginning of this month. I don't have any expert, advice or different advice than has been published nationally and is coming through all the forums. So I just want to clarify that. I'm happy to answer questions, but what I've got on these slides is some of the things that we might want to consider locally and how that will impact on Medway. So the reforms are setting out a vision and an overall ambition to ensure children achieve and thrive, with schools as anchor institutions working alongside health, social care and youth services. And that schools as anchor institutions seems to be embedded right the way through a number of the reforms, particularly the white paper, but also the children's services reforms, and as is later in the presentation, the school estates policy that came out earlier this month as well. They all seem to align with schools being the centre of communities and the development and an increase in the responsibilities and the co-location of schools and what schools do. So you will be aware that the goals for the system are that broad, knowledge rich, inclusive curriculum, strong foundation in early years literacy and numeracy, a shift from withdrawn to engaged, sidelined to narrowed, a strong focus on inclusion, SEND inclusion, disadvantaged, and place-based improvement. And they are not new to us, in terms of the work that has been going on already, the narrative that we've already heard. There are some core national targets that the paper sets out. We would say that the white paper is talking about a up to 10-year reform plan, and a number of the things that are included in it will need legislation change. And certainly what Bridget Phillipson has been saying is that they are aiming for 2029 for some of that legislation change. So there are key priorities. They are labelled A to G. The first one being early years and family support, and that expansion of the Best Start in Life family hubs, 75% of children to be school ready by 2028, strengthened early years transitions into schools, and expansion of breakfast clubs, free breakfast clubs for all primaries, which we know has come through in the pilot. You will know that our good good level of development levels locally have been above national for our early years. And we had an early years review earlier last year. And we have just we've just got on board Amy Gentry, who is an early years transformation lead, and she is going to be working to develop the early years plan and roll out some networks and training across early years providers and really start working on this transformation action plan. The next priority is around curriculum, assessment and enrichment, and refreshed national curriculum being refreshed for 2028 and GCSEs updated for 2029. Greater emphasis on oracy, digital literacy, media literacy, sustainability and citizenship, and a new Year 8 reading fluency assessment and enhanced writing assessment. So a bit of a going back. We got rid of Key Stage 3 assessments. We are now getting a variation of Year 8 assessments coming in. There are listed on there some investment programs. These are just headline figures that have been bounced around nationally, and I'll talk a little bit about the money a bit later on. We do obviously in Medway have a lot of cultural assets and a lot of local historic sites that will be helpful. And as we develop our place strategy, we are going to be looking at how those can fit in and make sure they are available to offer support for that curriculum development in schools. There is going to be a pot of funding for schools in deprived areas. Again, we're waiting on the detail of what that might look like, but it would appear that there will be some parts of Medway that are absolutely going to fit the criteria for that. In terms of the SEND reform, specifically, it's talking about universal, targeted and specialist support. You will have heard quite a lot of the narrative. The intention is that by 2029, when they have changed the legislation, the EHCPs will be for children going to special schools. And prior to that, so for all children within mainstream schools, they will have an entitlement to an ISP, an individual support plan. And every school will be developing what they're calling inclusion units. There won't be SRPs, they're going to be called inclusion units as well. There is going to be 1.6 billion in terms of in mainstream funding for schools, so do that early intervention work. And there's talk of a significant increase in the specialist places and the universal inclusion bases, which again, I think Paul's going to reference in the education estate strategy, but they are talking about retrofitting on some of that as well. I will emphasize that this is the legislation will need to change for some of this, and we've got 3 years before that can happen, and it's earliest. So we need as a system to have a think about how we manage that interim and which bits of this work we might want to push forward with at a greater rate and which bits we might want to hold off on. And Joe will update in terms of our SEND figures, etc. But as you know, we've seen that significant increase in demand for EHCPs, and given the time frame of the rollout of this work, we don't foresee that demand reducing anytime soon until parents have that assurance around the developments and the resourcing going into schools to enable their child's needs to be met in schools. So disadvantage, rather helpfully or unhelpfully, seems to be labelled alongside SEND in a lot of the reforms. Disadvantage and also then poverty is listed alongside it as well. And a lot of the developments are talking about pupils with poverty, pupils with disadvantage, pupils with SEND. So it does seem to be wrapping it up quite a lot in terms of the white paper and the headlines that are coming through. That said, they are talking about a new deprivation funding model, and having a new formula for that, and particularly projects, so Mission Northeast, which is about white working class focus, and Mission Coastal, so for coastal disadvantage, there being elements in the funding formula for schools that will take those things into consideration. We don't have any more information on that. And a lot of that is coming through in terms of the consultation. There was a very long consultation, which I'll talk about at the end. But that should benefit certainly, you know, some of the peninsula and some of our coastal communities, that coastal corridor, and that deprivation funding, which we know some schools have a very high proportion of children with free school meals. It's no surprise that attendance, behaviour and engagement is very high on the agenda as well. Our persistent absence remains high locally, although it has improved, it is still high locally. They are talking about attendance and behaviour hubs within schools, a pupil engagement framework, expansion of attendance mentoring for persistently absent pupils. That's linking directly into the children's services reforms, where attendance may well become part of the family help offer, which is about early help and child in care being together. And they're expecting that mentoring to significantly lower that persistent absence. There will be updated guidance on suspensions, behaviour, bullying and mobile phone ban if the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill brings that social media ban in as well for pre-16. That will come with additional guidance as well. And then moving on to workforce and leadership. So also published alongside the white paper was the delivery plan for recruiting 6,500 specialist teachers, targeted mainly at secondary, FE and special. A significant investment into national SEND and inclusion training, and the NPQ SENCO qualification. The part of the consultation talks about every school required to have somebody with an NPQ SENCO sitting within their leadership team. So that's the expanded NPQ offer. And then there are a number of pilots which you will have been made aware of through the DFE, some of the RISE teams. They're looking at a pilot around regional improvement teams as well that are coming through with the DFE, which I'll be able to give you more information on. I have meetings next week to talk about those, so I'll be able to give you more information on those. They're talking about addressing shortages in the specialist math, science and specialist SEND roles, and making sure that the training offer is embedded, and particularly with our trust and teaching schools. So it also reinforces that academisation agenda, all schools to join or form high quality school trusts. The local authority is able to form school trusts, hasn't really changed. We can already be part of local authority, academy trusts. There's a limit on the amount of the proportion of the trust board that we can be part of, but that hasn't really changed. Just for your assurance, I have spoken with our political leaders. There is no intention at the moment for the local authority to set up a trust or to look to move that forward in that way. the proportion of schools that we have that are left as local authority maintained schools is very low. It doesn't make any sense for us to do that. So that's where we are at the moment. There will be required local governance mechanisms, including parent forums and collaboration responsibilities, including young people collaboration responsibilities for all schools to be able to evidence that there is that local governance and co-production and collaboration across parents and young people. And expectations about pooled funding. The other main area is obviously technology, data and artificial intelligence. So there are a number of pilots, AI tutoring tools, for example, digitized national curriculum. There is also talk around a digitized or a standardized and digitized EHCP template. To improve school networks through connect to classrooms. The children's services reforms talk about data sharing and a single view of the child, so that agencies are sharing information across each other, and it isn't the case that the parent has to retell or reshare their information when they talk to the school, the local authority, their health provider, their police, etc. So that's coming in the children's services reforms, but is also referenced within these reforms. I've put this in here just really for your information. So these are all the changes and the time frames and where they've said where there's funding that's going to come in. We've just pulled this from the documents that are available online, but I've put it in there in case it's helpful for you to have something, because there's an awful lot in the white paper that is coming through. So this just gives you a list of the main headline projects. There is a consultation. It is live. It closes on the 18th of May. Anybody can respond to it. The link's there. It's a long consultation. It's got quite detailed questions. We will be pulling together a response that we will take through particularly the SEND Partnership Board to make sure that we are giving a coordinated response. But as you can see, it is open to everybody, and I would strongly advise that people do respond to it. It does have it's got detail which isn't in the white paper that actually gives a better idea of what they're thinking in terms of some of these reforms. Helpfully or unhelpfully though, they've also announced a high needs stability grant. So as you're aware, we have been under the safety valve programme to manage the deficit of the high needs block, which is part of the dedicated schools grant. Now we've practically finished that. We submitted the last return in December last year, and we've received the last instalment, and with our plan we were due to have removed that deficit. Now what they've done, and they've ceased all safety valve plans with immediate effect, which for us doesn't make a huge amount of difference, and they've introduced a high needs stability grant, which for this year will pay off 90% of the deficit that local authorities are sitting on. Now, we're waiting on more detail, but we have done some calculations and we have checked our calculations with the DFE. And because of the accounting and the way that it's done, it's talking about the money that is sitting in the statutory override rather than specifically the high needs grant. So our estimation, and this is our estimation, so this is not set in stone by any way, and we are waiting for that further information. But our estimation is we will have an additional 6 million in our high needs block for 26-27. Now, I need to remind you that we lost 1.9 million because we were told to forecast for a 3% uplift, and we didn't get that. We were flat cashed. And so the money was held back. It was flat cash to pay for the SEND reforms. So there is an element of this isn't new money. They've held it back, and now that we're getting it in a different way. But if mine and Mariah's calculations are correct, we should have an excess of 6 million for next year. But that is just for next year. It is not an ongoing additional pot. And therefore, we still need to work on bringing our high needs spending within a sustainable in-year balance. Now, certainly at a meeting that I was on with Bridget Phillipson earlier in the week, last week, she was making reference to a similar grant of some form for the next 2 years to prevent local authorities growing that deficit again until they manage to put the legislation in which will enable some of these changes to really be embedded. Again, we have no details and we have no guarantees around that. We are in conversations, and it doesn't mean that we have a bottomless pit, but we need to make the decision, particularly with LGR coming, as to what we do and how much we restrict that funding, or do we invest a lot now and get the system exactly where it needs to be and then worry about that later. That's not a decision I can make. I need to present that to members and have them make that decision. But it's really unhelpful because to get this high needs stability grant, we need to submit a SEND reform plan that is agreed across partners by June this year. So they're not even waiting for the consultation to finish to give us the exact outcomes of the consultation to submit this plan. We are in a better position because we've had the safety valve plan and the underpinning areas, improved inclusion, strengthened local SEND provision and sustainable high needs budget, are exactly what our safety valve plan has been embedded on. But we will be working on that through our partnership networks and feeding into the SEND partnership board in terms of the governance route to get a plan agreed, and we'll be reaching out to you for support with that plan. So there's just the links in terms of the sites around the white paper for you to access and have a further read. I just wanted to also give you a quick update on the reform of services for children. Obviously, that work has been taking place for the last month, and we now have a project manager to come in and assist in those 5 work streams and bring them forward. We have secured and finalised the governance. So as you can see, there are 5 work streams there feeding into a steering group. The ultimate governance for the Children's Services reforms is the Children's Services Continuing Improvement Board and the Medway Safeguarding Children's Partnership Executive Group. And there are various scrutiny groups and reporting and consultation groups, including all of your network groups. There is a health steering group, and there will be a police one as well in terms of them working through that. There is a lot of overlap with this work and the SEND reforms and the white paper work that has come out. So we will be developing how we put some of this work into some of those work streams, how we integrate it across so that we're not having 3 or 4 different plans all trying to achieve the same thing. Just to remind you there, those are the work streams, those are what are in them at the moment. And an ask for you in your network meetings to start to have a conversation and identify representatives to sit on those work streams from education. Education is absolutely at the forefront of all of these reforms. It's, you know, at schools being at the center of the community, but even in these reforms, it's schools being part of family help, schools being part of multi-agency child protection teams, decisions around children being taken into care, education absolutely at the table, safeguarding children not in school. So we do need really strong representation from education on all of the work streams and on, go back, the governance groups there as well, which we have representation on them, but we need to look at that and make sure, and if we want double the representation, to make sure that your voices are heard throughout the process. So in that vein, I will be coming out to you to ask for representatives from your network meetings that can then take that work back to your network meetings. So in advance of that, if you could have a look at these, like I say, we need the work stream, a member for the work stream leads, we need a member for the Children's Services Reforms Steering Group, and then making sure that we've got appropriate representation on the other groups as well. And I am conscious that we have some individuals that sit on a lot of groups, and I'm conscious that it's a lot of work. So if we can try and share the load a bit, I think that helps the system leadership understanding as well. Okay, linking very much with all of that, I am going to hand over to Paul, who is going to talk about the education estates strategy that was published just before the white paper, but very much intertwines with everything that we've talked about already. Paul.
Okay, here we go. So the government has introduced this education estate strategy, which is a 10-year plan, and a 10-year plan to improve the education estate across the country. It's backed up by 38 billion pounds worth of money, which takes us through to 2035. Although the initial 38 billion is hopefully going to be used by 2030, but they are prepared to add more money to 2035. And the main focus is on, as the slide says there, condition climate resilience and early years. The main drivers for this are the aging buildings. Many buildings, as you'll be aware, and I was in one this morning, where you had the similar conversations, which I'll talk about now, date back to the 1940s to the 1980s, and particularly those buildings that came about in the 60s, late 60s and early 70s were probably only built for 60, 70 years of life, and we're reaching that period now. And they are all beginning to start to show their age, and we need to address that across nationally, not just locally. And that leads to rising maintenance backlogs. As we know, the local authority gets a cash grant every year, which is never enough. It's about £500,000 a year for all of our maintained schools. One roof, for example, this year is costing us nearly £700,000. So it is really insufficient money. I know academies can bid through the SIF, through their directly through the DFE, but again, I know talking to academies, they aren't always successful and can struggle to keep the buildings maintained. Climate is playing a particular, more of an increased role within this, overheating and flooding particularly, and we know of schools where overheating is taking place quite often, particularly obviously in the summer, and very cold in the winter sometimes. Demographic change, so the increasing rise in numbers generally, particularly in SEND and post-16 and currently in secondary. Primary numbers are falling, but some of that spare capacity can be used for other things. However, primary numbers will come back. These things are cyclical, and primary numbers will come back. So we have to make sure we manage the estate appropriately so that sufficient capacity is available as and when required. The other thing this will do, it will bring a more centrally based program with currently as the slide says, 2,800 bodies. So that's academy trusts, local authorities, dioceses that run our schools and maintain our schools and are responsible for those. And this will give a little bit more of a central, more consistent approach across those areas. So the idea behind this is that schools should be safe, so structurally sound and compliant and resilient buildings, those that are going to last into the future, suitable, so flexible, inclusive, but also supporting the curriculum and also supporting community use more widely, that they are sustainable, so climate resilient, energy efficient, and nature rich, and sufficiently sized to meet demographic demand, so responsive to changes in local needs. So as we spoke about, primary numbers are dropping, secondary numbers are increasing. That will reverse over time, and we need to be able to respond to that. SEND numbers will continue to increase, and we need to make sure that we are placed as a system nationally to meet that need. This gives an idea of the 38 billion pounds where that is placed. So 12 billion of that is in maintenance, 10 billion in rebuilding. They're the two main areas, and then followed by SEND and mainstream places and maintenance. So, and then a few small areas of retrofit, early years, digital and post 16. But 38 billion is a significant amount of money, but it does have to be spread out across the country. So when that whittles down, we don't know how much of that will find its way to Medway, but we'll go into a little bit of that in a second. So what does this mean for Medway Council and Medway as a whole? So it provides a stronger responsibility for local authorities and responsible bodies, so academy trusts, dioceses and local authorities where appropriate. And there are going to be some processes that are put into place for this. So the annual estate management reporting, new estate management standards, expectations around data quality, all the things on your screen there. Estate digital platform, which comes into this year, and a shift towards transparency and accountability for councils and responsible bodies, so that nationally they have a much better picture of where the money is being spent, how it's being spent, and what the outcomes and what the impact of that money is. So local implications there, school place planning. I've been through a lot of that already, with the secondary numbers peaking, primary numbers falling. SEND requirements will continue to move forward. And I know Celia mentioned earlier the inclusion bases. They're going to look to be inclusion bases in all schools, but starting with secondary schools. Medway has made a commitment already prior to this strategy being made public that we would include an SRP, now to be called an inclusion base, in every new school that we build as part of the local plan and going forward. And we will commit to doing that, but also looking at working with current schools to bring inclusion bases into those schools as and when appropriate. I've had a number of conversations with schools recently, and one today in actual fact, where we discussed that how we could make their building more suitable, more appropriate and better to meet the demands of those children in that school with SEND. So again, rising HCP numbers, we've been through that. Yeah, we can move on to the next slide, I think. So the funding opportunities there, we went through how the funding is going to be split out, but what it does, it provides that certainty right through till 2035, enables Medway and local and responsible bodies to plan ahead, to work out how the priorities and to plan those priorities and to do them in an effective and efficient way. Something we can't currently do, if I tell you that for the next academic year, 26-27, we haven't yet been told what our maintenance allocation is by the DFE. We hope, and that's the same as last year. We heard in March, we had then had to suddenly quickly plan to use that money. And again, it looks like we're in the same position this year. But going forward, this will change that and will enable us to start to plan ahead, and that will help all the maintained schools from a Medway perspective to prioritise the work that's required. So the renewal and refit retrofit programme will be brought in. Medway looks to be like it's going to be included in the first wave, which is the southeast in 2026, but will certainly be included by 2029. And it supports major condition works and enables buildings to be more climate resilient and more suitable, accessible for everybody. The school rebuilding program, there is a school rebuilding program, but it's going to be expanded already, but it's going to be expanded by a further 250 schools and sixth form colleges. You may be aware St John Fisher was rebuilt recently. That was part of the current schools rebuilding program. The Howard School has had some blocks amended and a new block added. So we have been part of the school rebuilding program so far, but it's been expanded to further 250 schools and colleges. Hopefully, we can be involved in that. But what it does mean is that the local authority and the responsible bodies have got to nominate schools by the 23rd of April this year. Now, there is a process that you need to look at for that, and that's in the guidance. My colleague, Katie Hewitson, who would have been presenting this today, is unfortunately on leave. If you need to contact her, if there's anything you're unsure about, she will be able to advise and guide you on that and what will be requested. And perhaps, Chloe, we can send out Katie's email address with the slideshow on the minutes at the end of the briefing. Okay. So in summary, then, it brings about new duties and new opportunities for responsible bodies, long-term funding certainty, which is brilliant for us, and I'm sure for Academy Trust and Diocese as well. It enables us to expand SEND and inclusion, and we need to be ready. We need to be prepared. We need to be planning now. April the 20th, April this year is the deadline. We need to be planning now to get our bids in and our forms filled in. I think it's an online form that is completed, but you need quite a lot of planning to go with that. Okay, move on. It's me again. Free school meal holiday vouchers. I know a bit more about this. So the government has changed the household support funding, which ends on the 31st of March 2026. That's going to be replaced by the Crisis Resilience Fund. As part of the Crisis Resilience Fund, vouchers for school holidays are unable to be part of that. We've got to look at different ways of working, different ways of supporting community support, as it says there, shift to long-term community support. So the Easter holidays, although it ends on March the 31st, we are continuing to provide the the vouchers for this Easter holiday. So, and I think today Chris Saul emailed out to schools asking you to start placing your orders through the usual process with Eden Red. But this will be the last time that you have to do that. Beyond that, different kinds of support will be available to your families, not just those that are eligible for free school meals. It'll be for all families who are finding difficulties. So there will be community food hubs, and we have just signed the lease on a community supermarket. The holidays and activities, the HAF program is going to be expanded to include more activities and to enable a greater number of children to access it. There is going to be cost of living advice services, early help support and crisis support payments. These are going to be available on through the Medway Council, through the various email addresses which are provided on the letter that's come out to you today. You should have had a letter sent out from Celia, which is for all schools, which sets out the rationale and how this work, and provides you with email addresses on where your families can go to for support. The letter that we've also asked you to forward on to your families who are eligible for free school meals also sets out those places that they can go to for support through the council's various departments for this Crisis Resilience Fund. That's it. Thank you. And now I'll pass you over to Joe, who's going to talk to you, give you a SEND operational update.
Thank you, Paul, and welcome everyone. It's so nice to see so many of you on a call today. I'm going to keep it brief because I'm mindful that you probably want to ask us some questions. Celia has earlier referred to some numbers that I'll provide, and although I haven't prepared a slide with numbers, I'm going to give you some numbers that are quickly prepared just so we can give you an overview of a bigger picture of where we are and where the challenges are. So in the last academic year, in the first sort of winter term of this academic year, we've issued 1,200 of new plans. With our current inclusion rate at 46%, which is a fantastic achievement, that means that about 643 children with new plans would require specialist school placement. We don't have those specialist school placements. 643, that's, as you would appreciate, it's 3-4 special schools. So we don't have them. And at the moment, we've got 491 open assessment at any stage of 20 week. And with our current conversion rate, the slideshow's disappeared. Sorry, Chloe. With the current conversion rate in terms of our agreements to assess and agreements to issue, 420 of those new assessments are likely going to be converted to new plans. In the weeks leading to the February half term, we've seen another spike in requests for assessments, with the last 2 weeks averaging 50 new requests, which is again double to what we've been seeing in the months prior to that. What we also do see is significant increase in our tribunal numbers. Since March 25 until end of February this year, we had 275 tribunals. Now, this is not a number that I've seen in any other local authorities that I've worked, but it's actually nationally a recognized increase. At the moment, we've got 200 open tribunals, and 75% of those tribunals are related to placements. So this is where our challenges are at the moment in terms of numbers. And now I'm going to talk about my presentation. Obviously, happy to take more questions if you want to talk about demands. I do want to address communication. As you know, I go to a number of forums. I meet with many of you and have been visiting schools individually as requested. And I do hear about communication, that it's still not working, that you're still not seeing your officers. I am really keen on strengthening this communication, and I hope all of you would know that since September, every school has a link officer, and every school should be having contact with the officer and planning work. I'm hearing from some of you that this is not happening, so I'm quite keen to make sure that it starts to happen. Because these officers should be your first point of contact. They should be the officers who know your school, who understand your provision, who understand your limitations, and actually get to know the children that they are managing and maintaining EHC plans for. The visibility in schools for me has to increase. My teams, I would rather see them in teams than sitting in Gunworth. That's what they need to be working with you and working with children. So I am also looking at how we are addressing our availability and offering parental dropping. So I do have an idea that if our officers were more visible in your schools, whether some of the drop-in sessions for your school, specifically if you have large number of children with EHCs, could actually be offered in school. So I will quite welcome feedback and your comments to this idea, how you would see it. I mentioned in my presentation that we've got up-to-date contact list with contact numbers that's regularly circulated. If you haven't got it or you haven't been sent one, do let me know and we will send it. There's another part of communication that I do want to talk about as well, and it is about how we communicate with each other. Can I have the next slide, Chloe, please? Thank you. How we communicate with each other, who we copy in, and to make sure that we're addressing communication where it needs to go. We have a shared responsibility for how we communicate with each other, and I know that with systematic pressures across the partnership, sometimes emotions can take the better of us. I think what I'm trying to ask here for is, let's encourage more and more sort of phone conversations, visits. I'm always open to come and have a conversation. I do believe that it's a more effective way of discussing issues, understanding your challenges and actually tackling a lot more in one meeting than in extensive emails. We do see a lot of emails. We do see extended chains of emails often sent to people who are not quite involved in management. So I also would urge you to make sure that the communication is directed to those that it needs to be directed, and people who can actually provide you with solution in a timely way. Again, I will refer to our contact list who's got sort of very clear escalation routes. And if it's not working, please do let me know, because I do want to make sure that we all communicating better and we have better results for our children. The next thing I did want to mention, because we get quite a lot of feedback from schools or actually requests for updates and inquiries, and it kind of relates to the numbers that I talked about when at the start of my presentation. Caveat cases, you know, you've heard us mention caveat cases back in May 2025 when we were still tackling the backlog, where we did need to recognize that not all of the children who will require specialist provision will be able to have specialist provision allocated to them. The problem didn't go away. We still have about 90 children who have been considered as caveat cases, and specialist has been recognized as the type that's needed in their EHC plan. And we know that you try to support them the best that you can. And in some of these cases, it's not working and it's presenting with challenges for you that you have not seen before. I am extending sort of invitation to make contact with me, because I am really keen to work with you as schools in terms of providing you with almost a bespoke or individualized support to make sure that we can try and keep these children in education for as long as we can, because the specialist places are simply not there. And what we've been seeing in the last few months, and especially having just completed the phase transfer exercise, even independent schools are now returning negative consultations because they are significantly oversubscribed and struggle with capacity. So I'm extending invitation for you to come and speak to me if you have these children and would like to discuss how we can support you. And then lastly, as you know, I am really keen to drive improvements to make sure that I can create a SEND service that's responsive, of good standard. And I am really keen to hear feedback. That feedback comes to me at the moment in variety of forms, usually through school conversations or number of emails I'm receiving. But I want to develop a survey, which would be a SEND satisfaction survey, about your experiences as schools of working with the SEND service in Medway. I am planning to start this survey from the sort of summertime, early summertime this year. And hopefully this would be something that will give me some measurable results of what's been improved, what's working, and what we still need to focus on. So once we're ready to release it, I think I'll just ask you to try and actively participate in this feedback so I can continue to drive improvements. Thank you. I will now hand over to Emma, who will talk to you about ordinarily available provision.
Thanks, Jo. Just really a couple of slides on an update of where we are around the ordinary available provision. For those of you that attended the inclusion conference in November, you very kindly provided your feedback around the current document that we have, and we looked at what was good, what was we could do better, and here is just some of the areas that we felt that we could do more of, and even better if we did. Just to give you an update, so what we're doing next is we're working with SLIP. Next slide, please. So we're working with SLIP, who helped us deliver the conference itself. They're actually going to be providing us with some targeted support to provide a focus on this area, to basically work alongside us to review what we're currently doing. So all the feedback that we gave in the conference has been sent over to them already, to their subject matter expert, who's going to be looking how we're going to then co-create with us a new plan. We will be doing this by a variety of workshops, interviews, focus groups, all of the methods that you were telling us in the conference of how you would like to carve and develop this area of work. So yeah, we're going to be getting to it. So basically in April and June, we're going to be asking for, again, representation, people who would like to be involved in this. We'll be asking for feedback. We really want to make this a worthwhile consultation and engagement to actually get something that's really going to work for us in Medway. So watch out this space, and we will be asking very shortly. So thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Just very briefly, colleagues, would like to cover 3 areas with you this afternoon regarding children in care PEPs for the spring term, support and training that's available for both schools and parents and carers, and the live pupil premium plus consultation that we would invite you to participate in. So firstly, then looking at the current position for PEPs for the spring term at time of writing, and this was the figures at the start of the term break, we had a 64% return. So term on term, we are seeing an increase in the earlier returns of PEPs, which means that schools are receiving their funding to implement the interventions and support needed for our children. That said, our figures are now requiring 485 PEPs to be returned, but as of this week, we're at 78% return. So thank you again for that. 11 of those outstanding 106 are children that are new to care to Medway this term. So, and they are in the Medway schools. That's not just all of the new to care. So the numbers change week on week, but we just thank you for your support within that. But this plan is at the heart of driving outcomes for children who are care experienced. And we know that where pupils are making rapid progress and meeting their targets and achieving well, and as well as their peers, their opportunities become much wider for their lives, and that's really, really important. So the quality of those PEPs is crucial, and I think that's where we come to the next slide. Looking at the CPD for SCARF, just a reminder to you all that emotionally based school avoidance is available and it's funded for every educational setting in Medway. That's the whole staff, and that's funded until the end of this academic year. And then weekly sessions at the moment for designated teachers or staff involved in capturing pupil voice and writing for progress and attainment. They're weekly sessions again. Contact us if you haven't seen the bookings for those, and we'll get you booked on to one of those slots. So thank you for that. But the training is also there for parents and carers. So there is the emotionally based school avoidance that's online for all parents and carers of Medway children. And that's something you may want to consider establishing as a school or hosting as a zone or a trust. But specifically also on the 6th, that's this week, and a repeated session on the 20th March, is some academic mentoring sessions that we've got some online training for special guardians. So that's a subgroup of the kinship cohort. So if you've got special guardians in school, and we don't always know who they are because they may have moved to Medway, we've got some training out for them. So we've put that out through flyers and newsletters, but if you can promote that too, we would really appreciate that. Thank you. And finally, a current consultation is out for Pupil Premium Plus 26-27. As Paul was referring to guidance and information about finance earlier, we haven't seen the updated guidance yet for next year's guidance expenditure. We're not expecting significant changes, but we do have the localisation of the policy. So please do respond to that QR code. That would be much appreciated. Thank you, Celia.